All right, well, welcome. So good morning, and just a quick reminder, this session is being recorded if that didn't pop up on your screen when you entered. And welcome to the presentation on the Communications Bill of Rights. Thank you again for being here with us today to dive into the work being done across the city to advance equity for students in the School District of Philadelphia and to move us forward towards a space of hope and healing. For this presentation, we have Sonya Brintnall, Susan Brook, and Tamara Sepe, who will be presenting the Communications Bill of Rights. Sonya Brintnall is a speech language pathologist, SLP, with experience working in early intervention and public school settings for over 20 years. She has worked for the School District of Philadelphia, SDP, for over 10 years and currently serves as a lead therapist. She is a co-founder and co-chair of SLPs Initiative for PA Schools, or SIPs, a grassroots advocacy group made up of SDP SLPs dedicated to making sure students with communication disorders have access to high-quality services. We also have Susan Brook. This is Susan's 7th year as a School District of Philadelphia SLP. She is also a member of the SLPs Initiative for PA Schools as the role of membership coordinator and is involved in their social media pages. And we have Tamara Sepe, who has been an SLP for over 20 years working in early intervention, hospital and public school settings. And this is her 5th year in the School District of Philadelphia. Tamara is also a founding member of SIPs, along with Susan and Sonya. So I will now turn this over to Susan, who will get us started.
All right. So, Sonya, would you like to drop the Communication Bill of Rights into the chat? So basically, this is just a little visual to display our Communication Bill of Rights, which is a series of 15 bullet points that we're going to, very briefly, but specifically mention. And this is just going to be an outline of what our presentation is really about. So Tamara, since I am sharing, would you want to, you and Sonya could maybe do it?
Sure, I can read them. So we're just going to briefly read them aloud. I know that this might be new to some people here, so we thought we would just read them out loud. This is the video, the picture that you see is sort of a foreshortened or simplified version, and I'm going to read directly from the link that was dropped in the chat. So these are considered fundamental communication rights, the right to interact socially, maintain social closeness, and build relationships, the right to request desired objects, actions, events, and people, the right to refuse or reject undesired objects, actions, events, or choices, the right to express personal preferences and feelings, the right to make choices from meaningful alternatives, the right to make comments and share opinions, the right to ask for and give information, including information about changes in routine and environment, the right to be informed about people and events in one's life, the right to access interventions and supports that improve communication, the right to have communication acts acknowledged and responded to, even when the desired outcome cannot be realized, the right to have access to functioning AAC, which stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, and other AT, which stands for Assistive Technology, services and devices at all times, the right to access environmental contexts, interactions, and opportunities that promote participation as full communication partners with other people, including peers, the right to be treated with dignity and addressed with respect and courtesy, the right to be addressed directly and not be spoken for or talked about in the third person while present, the right to have clear, meaningful, and culturally and linguistically appropriate communications. So that is the full version. This is what you see here is a sort of truncated version. So there we go.
Thank
and we'll
you.
talk more about these in detail in the coming slides.
All right. Yeah, you can keep that open for your reference, and we'll have bullet points to reference those specific ones again as we start to move on to our videos, but it's a good resource to have and to refer to. All right, so we're going to do a real brief history here of how the disability rights movement kind of intertwines with Martin Luther King Day. So does the struggle for disability rights has followed a similar pattern to the civil rights movement that we're familiar with Dr. Martin Luther King, especially considering challenging negative attitudes and stereotypes. We want political and institutional change, lobbying for self-determination of a minority community, which in this case are those who can't communicate like others. So basically how this really started too is parent advocacy. So, of course, many years ago, a lot of our children who are now, in specific classrooms or even in mainstream with supports, they were put into institutions and asylums for being different. They weren't really mingling with the other children. So of course, parents wanted to see their children being able to participate just like the others. So this was a really big way that the disability movement had started. And one of the big movements was the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. And this kind of helped lead the way, not for academics, that was going to come a little later, but for equal employment opportunities for those with disabilities. And this was a step in the right direction, which would eventually help also the children and the educational curriculum. And this was especially for government work. So now people were able to have equal opportunities for employment, regardless of disability. Okay, and then after that, now we get to the things that we talk about every day, such as IDEA. So before IDEA, in 1975, we had something renamed a little bit different, but very similar. It was the Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975. And this is really what said all children should have a public education. So even if there's disabilities, even if there's communication differences, every child should have equal access to public education. And of course, this also included mainstreaming the students as often as possible, as opposed to special education classrooms specifically. So from that is, of course, what we all know and we all talk about today, IDEA. So that is the Education Act of 1990. And this further elaborated on the inclusion of children with disability into regular classes. And it also really is what spurred IEPs, or individual education plans, which we all know and love and have many meanings for throughout the year. And it really put an emphasis on not just the teachers setting this up for our students individually, but also having the parents involved, and the parents be a part of that team meeting and be able to put in their 2 cents about their own child and really make sure that it's individualized per child. So that was a really big advocacy push, thanks to the parents and thanks to the Rehabilitation Act and thanks to this Education of All Handicapped Children Act. It really spurred IDEA. And really, we wanted to kind of emphasize how this comes in with Dr. Martin Luther King, because he's really the one who was helping found all of these acts, including equality for children with disabilities. So all his courage and all his perseverance is really what helped to spur this movement for not just people of different ethnicities, but also for people with special education needs and concerns. All right, so that was 1990. It was the IDEA. So just 2 years later, 1992, was the introduction of what we're going to talk about, the Communication Bill of Rights. So it was initiated by the National Joint Committee for the Communicative Needs of Persons with Severe Disabilities, otherwise known as the NJC. And basically, it just talks about that all people, regardless of severity of disability, have basic rights to communicate. And those 15 bullet points we just talked about are what they outlined. And it basically just says that these are needed for daily communication, all interactions, that we should always keep these 15 bullet points in mind at all times. And we're going to show some video examples and have a little bit of a discussion of how we can see these 15 bullet points playing a role in school and everyday conversations with these individuals who may communicate in a different way than we are all used to.
All right, great. Thanks, Susan. So we have 5 different video clips. They're fairly short. And I think the idea here is to recognize, first of all, that we all have different perspectives, experiences. We're coming from different roles. So just, take a look. This isn't perfect. What we're, communication isn't perfect. We're all striving to the ideal of the Communication Bill of Rights, but we just wanted to illustrate how we can kind of put this Communication Bill of Rights into action in our service with students. So let's take a look at this family.
There you go, great. You wanted your drink. Yeah. Hi, that's him saying hi. Yes.
Matthew is a happy child.
You want to give Mommy a hi?
How are you? How you doing? My name is Marlo Lemon, and I'm Matthew's mom.
You see yourself?
He has a really funny sense of humor. He's very visually stimulated. Initially when you have a child that's nonverbal, people often ask, well, how do they communicate? And I always say my goal, yes, I want Matthew to be able to talk. But I had to broaden my horizons and you know what? You want him to be able to communicate.
Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want your drink? I started working with Matthew several years ago. There you go. I'm Sarah Beth Schaff, and I'm a speech language pathologist here at Trellis School. When he wasn't talking and he wasn't able to imitate at that time, I decided it was time to implement another functional mode of communication for him. So we started with a picture exchange communication system, which is very widely known. I want, eat, popcorn. That was probably the first time in his life he had functional communication across a variety of contexts that really worked for him.
He was doing really well with PECs, and as a result, that's why we asked for, could we possibly, use an assistive technology device to help him with communication.
Cookie.
Yum. The beauty of this device is the capacity for him to communicate is vast. You want to start with the core. We use core vocabulary words. Core vocabulary words are words like eat, drink, stop, play, go, more.
Eat.
Here you go. It speaks, so he speaks.
Drink.
Drink! Sure. There's your drink. You want to play? You find places where they're most motivated. You put the core into it.
Go.
You want to go? Let's go.
Go.
Good job. Go. Hey, my turn. Can I have a sip? Today he was doing well with the word turn.
Turn.
It wasn't taking as much prompting as it sometimes does, so then I wanted to increase the difficulty. I add words while I'm working with him, so I want to add the word my. So I just went ahead and added it, so now I have the word my, so I can do my turn.
Turn.
It increases the amount of hits you're going to push, and it's a little bit harder.
My. Turn.
My turn.
Good. Here you go. These devices on a typical day are with him all the time.
Come.
The speech therapist needs training on it, and then the family also needs training on it. One of the best things about this device is it's dynamic, so it's changing with us all the time. So we can work with the displays and make it fit exactly what we're trying to teach him.
Eat. Cookie.
Eat cookie, good job. That was really exceptional. He said eat cookie. He said the whole phrase completely independently, and that was 4 hits. So the first time today when he was eating cookies, I've never seen him eat those cookies. I could tell he loved those cookies. So in the moment, I want yum on there. Yeah, you want to say yum.
Yum.
Cookies are yummy. So now in this moment, we've started using 2 comments, which is something we're working with Matthew on, saying like and yum. And that's really important for him not to just be requesting using the device, but using it for a variety of communicative intent. What do you want?
Cookie.
Cookie? Cookie. And when the next time he ate cookies, he was very pleased with that. You wanted to say yum, let me teach you. Yum starts at the top. Eyes on. Look, this is yum.
Yum.
Yum. You wanted to say yum.
Yum. Yum.
Yum. to me, the goal for Matthew is to confidently, functionally, and proudly communicate.
Through giving him a way to communicate, we've decreased behaviors tremendously. I would say start off with the pitch exchange communication system. Once he got to having 4 to 6 pitches on the front of his PECS book, it's like, you know what, we can take it up another level. As his mom, you know, my expectations have always been really high. I'm like, we're going to maximize Matthew's potential. He can, you know, and we truly do believe that he will be able to talk.
We will never say that a child won't talk. He absolutely may talk. But right now, he has this.
Like.
You like music? Yeah, let's do music.
Just because he's nonverbal does not mean he doesn't have a lot to say.
More.
More. That's more.
Wow, it's given him a voice.
Yum. Yum.
Okay, thanks for taking a minute to look at this video with us. I mean, here are the 2 video reflection questions. Like, what were you thinking about while watching the video? Like, that's my first question, because I'm sure we all come from different spaces and have different thoughts. You can put it into chat or you can unmute. Susan, I don't know if the video is still playing. Like, I think the next video music is on right now.
I'm muted. Can
What it means to be talked about when you're right here. We've talked about this before. So imagine you and me are talking, and I look over at Paul. Luis had a really crappy day today. Rather than, you know, talk about.
Got it. Thank you. So going back to the first video that we just watched, if you want to put into chat what you were thinking while watching the video, again, you know, nothing's perfect. I know we have a couple speech therapists here. I can imagine what you're thinking. If you could just put something in the chat, what you were thinking when you were watching the video, or what stood out to you, or what types of communication rights did you observe? Anyone else? What stood out to you, or what were you thinking while watching the video? Okay, see, what stood out to me is his expression, one of concentration, not disinterest or frustration. Communicating for different purposes. It's not just requesting. I agree. A lot of times we get stuck in the world of requesting, but there's more. Oh, less stressful, no stressful environment. Great. Okay, and in terms of the Communication Bill of Rights, I think that Susan put up there the different things in terms of, you know, having the right to request, the right to refuse, to say no, to express personal feelings or preferences like yum or I like it. And then we saw the right to access an intervention that was supporting this boy to communicate. All right. Anybody else before we move on? All right.
I was just curious, Sonia, I know that, you know, there are a couple of people who are speech therapists in here who have seen students use communication devices, but I was wondering for the participants who are not speech therapists, is this something you've seen before, or is this new? If people want to type in the chat, if it's new or something they're familiar with already.
Okay. Grace is saying she hasn't seen that.
Thank you, Grace.
Appreciate it.
You've never seen that. You've seen something similar, Elijah. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Definitely helpful to give us an idea of what people are experiencing. I think that, in our experience, and other speech therapists are willing to jump into this, that there's a lot more of this now for me. And, we're talking about our background in 20 years, this is more and more part of our work and integrated in many different ways. And that's why we're going to watch a couple more videos, and you're going to see different ways that devices or alternative augmentative communication or assistive technology can support kids in the classroom. Right, Susan, what's next? Oh, this is about dignity and that idea of being spoken for. So, and folks that work as educators, sometimes when you're in a classroom, there's a tendency for people to talk about students while they're there, right? Or especially if a child or a student is nonverbal, there's a tendency to describe things for them. And so we wanted to focus in on this right to not be spoken for, right? And to have dignity and respect and communication. So take a look at this video, and we'll again just go back to what do you think about this?
What it means to be talked about when you're right here. We've talked about this before. So imagine you and me are talking, and I look over at Paul and I say, Luis had a really crappy day today. Rather than, talk about you like you're not here. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Not good.
Not good? How does it make you feel when someone talks about you when you're right here instead of just talking to you? How does that make you feel?
Sad.
If I talk about you to someone else when you're right here, how does that make you feel?
Upset.
How would that make you feel?
Sad.
Yeah. How does it make you feel when people talk about you like you're not here?
I get a little pissed off.
So how would it make you feel if I talked about you while you were sitting right here to someone else?
It would make me really upset because I guess I wouldn't understand why you wouldn't just talk straight to me, why you would be talking to that person instead of me.
Sarah, how does it make you feel if someone talks about you when you're right here, but they don't talk to you directly?
Basically, that just makes me feel like I'm not important.
How would it make you feel if I talked about you while you were right here, but I wasn't talking directly to you?
I would probably feel disrespected. I would prefer if someone would just say it to me instead of around me. I guess it would be kind of uncomfortable too to have that happen.
How does it make you feel when if someone was to talk about you like you weren't here?
It would make me angry if someone were to talk about me in front of me when I wasn't there, because they would be respecting my presence in the conversation.
Tell me why.
People talking about me.
Makes you feel not good. What would you rather have happen?
People tell me, you okay? Yeah, fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. So you would prefer if I had something to say to just tell you? Yeah, would that make you feel better?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, but you say people tell me.
Right, so you'd rather that we have a conversation with you about your day or about anything? Tell me why it makes you feel upset.
Because I want someone to talk to me.
It makes me scared because I think I did something bad.
Just talk to me.
Just talk to you?
Mm-hmm.
And just tell you what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah? How would that make you feel?
Good.
Yeah, it would make you feel better?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be good if I talked to you because...
Because if you want me talking to me, now I feel left out.
Tell me why.
Because if you're talking about me when I'm not here, it makes me feel that you have no compassion and that you are saying something deconstructive about me.
Okay. What would you rather me do?
Talk to me in a constructive way when I'm around. if you're gonna talk about me when I'm not here, do it to where I can't hear you.
Thanks, Susan. So same question. You know, what were you thinking when you watched this video? You can unmute and share, or you can put a response in chat when you see these two groups of people talking about what it feels like when people talk about you when you're right there in the third person. Yeah.
And has anyone encountered this in your schools?
Yeah, what did you notice about these groups of people? We had the group of students with disabilities and then the quote unquote typical kids. What did you notice? Well, I'll just share that, you know, for me, when I was watching this, I was thinking about how often it's well-meaning educators. Exactly. It's well-meaning, you know, and this to me really reminded me to stand up for kids. I mean, the whole point, I think, of our presentation today is to advocate for communication for all children, right? And the words that really struck me here from the kids, how they felt if they were talked about in a third person or about as if they weren't there, were left out, scared, no compassion. So,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly, Miss Way. Yeah. And I think sometimes we forget, you know, not intentionally, but that just because maybe they're not expressing themselves in the same way, you know, maybe they're using shorter utterances or they're using a device or they're using pictures, it doesn't mean they're not getting it all receptively. You know, they're still a lot of times picking up what you're putting down. So if you're saying it right there in front of them, you know, they have the same feelings as that typical girl that they interviewed who said she would felt disrespected.
Right. I was just thinking, because this just happened this week, like I just had been, you know, preparing this presentation and this actually happened. And again, you know, like I think Stephanie mentioned, a very well-meaning educator, a colleague. I love working with this person. And I just looked at the face of the child and all those emotions. I could see that child is nonverbal, doesn't speak, but I could see that the feeling of knowing that they were being talked about, right? And they were right there. And so I just did my best to bring it back to them and say, this is what they're saying. What do you think? You know, coming to them, you know, did that happen? What happened? So again, just something to think about, like the right to be treated with dignity and addressed with respect and courtesy. Be addressed directly, not to be spoken for or talked about in the third person while you're present. All right. What's next, Susan? Oh, great. So this is a video example, very short, about creating inclusive environments. And I just want to share this. Of course, I had fantasies that we'd have a whole school board here and they'd be so motivated after seeing this. So this is a thought. Dignity is a big focus on my counseling session. Yeah, okay, good. So this is another video about inclusive environments. It's short. Let's see how do they do this here at this school district.
This morning at Malden's Early Learning Center signals the addition of a new installation on the playground. But this is not a toy. It's a valuable tool for children who are nonverbal. The symbols and images, along with written words on the sign, are what's known as augmentative and alternative communication.
This actually allows them to have an opportunity to state what they want, even if they don't have the actual words.
The idea for this new addition came from a parent.
I have a son who is 8-year-old, and he started on a low-tech augmentative alternative communication board, and he's made great stride.
Iman stepped in and said she wanted to become involved. She did the research, found us the template, and then from there we worked to find the funding through the mayor's office.
The parents, teachers, and city officials who made this happen hope it will foster inclusion, equity, and help nonverbal students make friends. But there are benefits for verbal kids too.
All the research shows that it supports verbal language and that even kids who are using verbal language, the pictures can help them.
Okay. So that was a core board, what we would call a core board out on a playground. And I'll ask the same question here. What do what are you thinking when you see that? Like, what communication rights could be realized with the access to a core board on a playground? This needs to be in every school. I know, really? That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking like, oh yeah, nice. Miss Vasquez shared that in abuse cases, I let them know I have displays in my office too to advocate for rights. Good. Yeah, so again, this is and I have to agree, and any other speech pathologists on board or anyone else, I mean, this works, it helps kids who speak as well. Even I would even say to kids that have, good verbal communication, it might just help them to get a conversation started, having those core boards, the pictures out there, to interact socially, maintain social closeness and relationships, access environmental contexts, interactions, opportunities that promote participation. I mean, recess, playground is definitely a time to participate and communicate with others. The right to ask for and give information, including information about changes in routine. So teachers can, give kids a warning of what's coming next. It's, we're going to stop. It's time to line up with those visuals in place. Any other thoughts, or anyone want to share their thoughts on a core board on the playground?
Yeah, this is definitely important because a lot of times we think about using the devices or the pictures in the classroom. We don't always think about it when they're having fun, we're interacting with other typical students who may not be in their classroom. So this is a really great way to kind of blend that, academic side with the social side.
Yeah, response, Tamara. This underscored for me that it's the responsibility of the whole community to support communication. It can be whoever's out on the recess yard to support communication. In fact, that's going to help promote the most change in communication, increase communication. Great. All right. We're in the home stretch. All right. So another communication disorder that people may or may not have experiences with. How many people are familiar with stuttering? You can put it in chat. Have experiences working with kids who stutter. Okay. Yeah. Right. So people here have direct experiences with people who stutter. So this is a video, and it's 20 minutes long. Like we're just going to watch like a minute and a half. We're not going to watch 20 minutes. But I really like it because it's students talking about what they wish people knew about stuttering. Yeah, let's see what you guys.
Stuttering cannot stop me from doing things I love.
My name is Mariana. I am 14 years old and I am from El Salvador. I wish people knew that people who stutter are not less intelligent than people who don't. And I wish people who do not stutter don't feel sorry for us because it's not a disease what we have. We will just embrace our stuttering and we will feel proud about it. Thank you.
What I want people to know about stutter is that people who stutter are usually kinder, smarter, and easier to get along with than most people.
What I want people to know about stuttering is that it doesn't mean that you're not as smart as everyone else. You are just as smart or even smarter than other people. And that stuttering is not contagious. You can't catch it. You're born with it. It's a neurophysiological disorder, which means that you were born with it. Thank you.
So what I wish people knew about stuttering is that stuttering is a neurophysiological disorder. And also people who stutter don't want other people to finish their sentences for them. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if you caught the last one with, people who stutter don't want you to finish their sentences for them. So I thought that would be an important one to share with you all. What were you thinking? Anyone want to share their thoughts that they were thinking listening to these young people? You can put it in chat or you can come off mute. What communication rights resonate with you from watching this? Right. Right. Thank you. Yeah. So there we go. Right to express personal preferences, feelings, make comments, share opinions, be treated with dignity, dressed with respect and courtesy, and to have clear, meaningful, culturally and linguistically appropriate communications. I know that there are other speech therapists here who work with students who stutter. I hear the one about finishing sentences from almost every student I work with. That's one of the things that really bothers students. Tamara or Susan, anything else? Stephanie, anyone else have anything to share about that?
I'll just say that I've had 3 incidents where I have stutterers on my caseload where there's been an issue on the playground or a fight, and their stuttering has really played into their ability to advocate for themselves. Because it takes them longer to formulate their thoughts. The stuttering symptoms increase in situations where there's upregulation and high stress. So these are students where I think it's really important to be aware of that wait time and that listening. Ms. Vasquez, I hope I said that correctly, mentioned suicide mentality. Suicide is stutterers attempt suicide more often than people who don't stutter. So I think that that's really important. And I'm actually going to put in the chat a link to a group called Friends Who Stutter, because Elijah mentioned that confident, and there's a group run by and for stutterers called Friends Who Stutter, which is wonderful, where they have social meetups, they have camps, they have weekend retreats. And as you said, Elijah, during those meetings I've attended, they do trainings for speech language pathologists where we're not allowed to speak and we just have to listen. And they're very powerful and amazing. And I would recommend it to anybody who works with children who stutter. So I'm just going to put that in there.
Thanks, Tamara. I also like the comment here that the students look confident and very sure of themselves as they spoke. This is a technique, and I guess, again, dating myself, that's kind of like new that we're talking about the self-disclosure to just come out and say, and perhaps I know that we have a counselor here too. It's probably, across the board, just coming out and saying, hey, I'm a person who stutters. It might take me longer to get my message out. Just wait. I'm going to tell you what my message is. So great.
Yeah. And I love the way Miss Way mentioned, again, yes, it's not about, being smart or anything. Sometimes we even have to remind teachers when they're doing these reading fluency tests, this child's going to need more time. It's not because she can't read. It's because it's taking her an extra minute, to get her words out. So even just, educating some of our fellow staff members about things like that can be important for these children as well.
Absolutely. I remember there was a math teacher showing me work of one of my students, and it's like a time math problem where they have to talk about the problem in a certain time period. And I was just like, that's just not gonna work.
No, not going to work.
Not gonna work. And this again was getting to that point, was a top math student. And ultimately he shared her video with me. It took her 9 minutes. It was phenomenal. So just wait. Okay. So last video to share, and I think,
so much can change in a school year.
I guess what I wanted to say about this video is essentially, I would love if we were doing videos and stories about kids with disabilities in our public school system and highlighting strategies that work. And so we selected this video for 2 reasons: to show another way that assistive technology can be integrated in the curriculum in a way that we can promote equity, inclusion, for all throughout the day. So let's take a peek at this guy in Denver.
Sometimes
he just kind of is blossoming.
It's simply stunning.
I get very emotional when I think about it.
Charlotte Wilder is referring to her son Alex, a student at SOAR in far northeast Denver. Since he was in first grade, she's watched Alex struggle while he's lived it.
Mentally, I just thought I wasn't good enough.
A learning disability, one he couldn't exactly put into words, quite literally held him back.
It was actually pretty hard because I couldn't see my friends. I thought I was just going to be held back again.
He couldn't even get his thoughts out.
A hunch from his special education teacher revealed something.
He needed a modality to just express exactly what he's thinking.
Whenever I have a problem writing a word or a sentence, assistive technology, I can use word-to-speech typing.
Assistive technology revealed the talent and potential Alex always had. Alex went from barely being able to craft a couple of sentences to being a top essay writing student in his class.
It's allowing him just to show us exactly what he knows and what he's capable of.
Woohoo! Good job, buddy.
Too often, we put assumption ahead of capabilities.
No, I want everyone to see, look what they can do.
Andrew Parks is a special education teacher at Marama Elementary. She works with students who have multiple severe disabilities.
I've seen these kids that you think they don't speak, they can't write, they can't hold a pencil. Oh, they can't do anything, they can't learn anything. Well, guess what?
Yellow.
And we didn't even know that she could do all this. And because of technology and all this, we can see what she knows now, finally.
Imagine if we didn't put limits on capability.
They get to show the world what they know.
It just shows me like how important that accommodations, including assistive technology, are to give all children access to that free, appropriate education that they're deserving.
Imagine how much could change in a school year or in a lifetime.
I kind of want to be able to help other people like me who had to be held back and have learning disabilities.
Sometimes it's simply stunning.
I can't even begin to describe the feeling. I'm so proud of him. So very, very proud.
For DPS Feature.
All right. So this is the last video that we had to share. What were you thinking? You know, we're all in different roles and have different perspectives. What communication rights did you observe, or what were you thinking in this video? Okay. People typing. I mean, I just was thinking, he said held back twice. That's what I was thinking. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Elijah. I agree. Not using technology as a toy, but as an actual educational support, interacting in a different way. Yeah, great. All right.
Yeah, I just love the way it showed the different levels. You know, he was obviously a little bit, higher functioning, but then it also showed the student who looked more like an MDS room going up to the smart board, making it much bigger for her to see. And just emphasizing that, this kind of technology and communication can help such a span. We're really talking about the rights of all kids with any kind of disability, whether it's someone who may appear higher functioning like that student, or someone who may, right from the outset appear a little more lower functioning like the student on the smart board. But, we all have the same goal for them, to be able to communicate and interact in the classroom and outside the classroom as well.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, one of the quotes I wrote down is, don't put limits on capability. Don't put assumption ahead of capabilities. So, same point. Awesome. Thank you for taking the time to look through those videos with us and share your feelings, your thoughts.
So we're just going to close with some tips and a few resources that people can explore if you want to learn more. The first tip is to presume competence. So what that means is that you are going to assume that your disabled students have the ability to learn, think, and understand. And this gets, I mean, I feel like this happens in a million ways. It could, or this not presuming competence can kind of present itself in a million ways. Sometimes it looks like assuming a child can't do something and doing it for them. It might mean assuming that you know what they're going to ask for instead of asking what they'd like. Sometimes I think that it happens when we were talking about students as if they're not there. People will sometimes assume that student can't understand, and in fact, they can. So to always assume competence from your students, to validate all communication. So sometimes a student might use their device to ask for something or to say something unexpected, something that or maybe something that you don't want them to say. But if we're really honoring their autonomy and their independence, we need to respond to that as we would any other kind of communication. And I have a student who uses her device regardless of our activity. I see her before lunch, and no matter what I have planned for this session, we begin the session with a conversation about hamburgers. And, she wants to talk about, if there's going to be hamburgers for lunch. And, I still, even though the session isn't about hamburgers, I still respond to that. Like, okay, like, yeah, I know, I hope it's hamburgers. You'll find out in a little bit, but this is the thing we're going to do today. But to still validate and acknowledge all communication.
Can I
Yes.
go on the validate communication?
Yeah.
I've been in classrooms where I'll bring out whatever I want to do that day, and the teacher will laugh and say, "Oh, they said no," and I go, "Okay, no, you said no. You don't want to do it. I know you don't want to do it." But I mean, I think the teachers were kind of surprised that I just was like, "Okay, I heard your no. I'm sorry. We're going to persist in our activity I have planned, but I heard your opinion. Thank you."
Right. And sometimes the temptation can be with a disabled student or a non-speaking student to just brush past their no. But just as you would do with a speaking student who doesn't want to do the activity that you have planned, sometimes you have to be like, okay, I heard your no, we're going to continue. I mean, sometimes you want to still give them that autonomy, and maybe you do put away the activity and switch it to something else if you're really trying. Especially, I think I do that a lot with students where having control over the situation is newer for them, where maybe their wants have been ignored for a long time. Those students, I tend to really listen to their no's and change the activities based on their interests and their moment to moment wishes. And this kind of leads into not seeking the right answer. So this is not about getting students to say what we want them to say. Sometimes people will ask me to remove certain symbols, or they don't like, or a student might request something. I have a student who asks to go to the bathroom a lot, even right after he's gone to the bathroom. But we can't remove the bathroom symbol. We still need to respond to that and not be kind of invested in him, moving on to do whatever it is that we have planned. This wait piece is in bold. I think that is so important. So many people with communication-based disabilities just need more time to formulate a response. And that is true, I think, across every single video we saw. There was an element where waiting is really important. And there is often an expectation in American culture, like people are fast. You expect this sort of fast interaction, this quick verbal response, and to really provide that additional wait time, and then to teach others about the Communication Bill of Rights. Did anybody have any questions or comments about these tips or additions? I know we have several highly skilled SLPs in here or other people who have ideas. I know we're running out of time. We're down to 5 minutes, so I will just quickly go through these resources. And if someone else, I don't think the slideshow you have is clickable. So if someone else doesn't mind, Susan or Sonia, putting the links in the chat while I just review these. Disability Rights Pennsylvania. This is an organization that protects and advances the rights of disabled people in Pennsylvania. If you want to know what legal issues are happening in Pennsylvania, this is your place. This is a podcast episode, Ableism and Racism, Roots of the Same Tree. We did not really get to talk very much about the intersection of race and disability. Maybe that will be next year's Social Justice Summit topic. But if you want to learn more about that intersection, this was a good podcast episode in which Ibram X. Kendi interviews Rebecca Coakley, who is a disability rights activist and formerly worked in the Obama White House. Rebecca Coakley. Imani Barbrin is a social media presence and force, and she also has a blog. You can find her under Crutches and Spice. It's a space for community, advocacy, and expression for the underrepresented disabled community. And she's writing from the perspective of a Black disabled woman. This learning about neurodiversity at school, this was a really cool curriculum that was developed in collaboration with researchers at the University of Edinburgh, collaborated with adults with disabilities to create and then pilot over a series of years a curriculum for 3rd to 5th graders that teaches all children about disability and works on developing a common vocabulary and an understanding of disability and neurodiversity. It is completely free. My only caveat is that because it is from the University of Edinburgh, some of the vocabulary is more based on UK vocabulary, so you have to adjust it, but it comes with slides and it's very complete. And then the last thing is a movie, which is called Crip Camp. This is a documentary about a camp called Gen Ed, and it was for disabled teenagers, and it was in the 1970s. A lot of the campers there went on to play a critical role in the disability rights movement. It's really cool. There's a lot of sex and drugs. It is not something you just turn around and show your students without carefully reviewing the content. But it's also really cool because Susan mentioned at the beginning the Rehabilitation Act. During the Rehabilitation Act, there were all these protests to demand that the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare sign it, because there was this section 504, which we all know about students with 504 plans. They had 504 protests to demand that they got signed, and they actually, a group of former campers from Gen Ed went and occupied a building in San Francisco for 26 straight days, and you can see footage of that, and it's kind of amazing. It's just an incredible moment in our history that I didn't know about until I read it. So it is a really good movie, and it was produced by the Obamas. So I recommend all those resources. So that is everything we have. Do people have any? I know we're almost out of time. Sorry. Any final comments or questions or anything people want to unmute or put something in the chat?
Well, thank you guys for spending your Monday 11 to 12 with us. We really appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming.
We hope that, if you already knew some of these things, maybe you just brushed up a little bit, or maybe some of the videos were enlightening, or we hope maybe you did learn something new today, even just about how to approach some of your students, or things that you can do differently, or you can encourage even colleagues to do differently. So any little tidbit you could take from this presentation, we hope you were able to do so, and we really appreciate you being here.
All right, so before everyone goes, I do have 4 links from my office that I'm asked to share with all of you. So obviously, firstly, just thank you, everyone. So if there are any questions that are lingering or you think about them later, there is a Padlet link that I just shared in the chat. Please feel free to add them to the Padlet. And what we'll do is we'll take all the responses or any comments or questions, and we'll share them in a follow-up email after the summit. So every presentation today has its own Padlet. We're going to combine all of them and do a follow-up email. So that's the first link. In the next one, this is our survey for today. So again, we are constantly self-reflective, critical thinkers. So please take the time. We know Your time is very valuable, but this does help all of us, not only the presenters who are wonderful today, but also overall the summit, so we can get any feedback and thoughts as well to, further improve this, as we want to keep this an annual event. All right, the next piece here is from the Office of DEI. We host monthly series and different PD sessions. So I have a flyer here that I am about to put in the chat there. This is just upcoming different sessions that you can participate in from the Office of DEI. And then this last one here, as I know we wrap up, this is from the Office of Leadership Development, where the Pathway to Leadership program seeks to support equity-centered leaders of all backgrounds and especially encourages future leaders of color to apply. The Pathway to Leadership provides a $25,000 scholarship for a principal certification through Temple University or the University of Pennsylvania, and mentorship within the School District of Philadelphia. So again, I know I just shared a lot of links. The first one was a Padlet just to get any feedback or comments overall about today's session. The survey was the second one for us for that critical self-reflection. The third one was from the Office of DEI of future upcoming PDs or chats. And then the fourth one was from Leadership Development for our Pathway to Leadership program. So I thank you all. We will stop recording, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.